My name is Evelyn Brewster. I am 87 years old, and I live alone in the same creaking farmhouse where my life began, and where most of it unraveled. The walls still remember the smell of my mama's biscuits, my daddy's pipe smoke, and the wails I've never dared to let loose from my chest. Sometimes I think this house has heard more truths than any living soul. It was a gray Tuesday in late October when I decided to finally clean out the attic. Not because I wanted to, heavens no, but because the draft coming through the ceiling was making my bones ache worse than usual. I climbed the wooden ladder, one slow step at a time, cane tucked under my arm, a flashlight between my teeth. The attic smelled like time and secrets. Dust danced in the slats of afternoon light, falling across forgotten photo albums, boxes of Christmas ornaments with brittle string, and a rusting baby carriage I couldn't bear to part with. I hadn't been up here in over 30 years. Since Horace passed. Since my son left town. Since I stopped pretending the attic wasn't just a graveyard for the parts of me I'd buried alive. And that's when I saw it. Tucked beneath an old army blanket behind a rotting dresser was a trunk I didn't recognize. It was wood, thick and heavy, and scrawled across the top in my mother's sharp, slanted handwriting was one word. Forbidden. I stood there staring at it for a long time. My breath shallow. My heart thudding with a rhythm I hadn't felt in years. I should have walked away. Should have covered it back up and left it to rot another 100 years. But I didn't. My hand trembled as I reached for the rusted latch. It resisted at first, like even the metal wanted to keep the secret sealed. But with a sharp tug and a cracking sound like old bones snapping, the trunk gave in. And inside were dozens of yellowing envelopes, neatly stacked and bound in faded blue ribbon. Beneath them a brittle manila folder, stamped across it in red block letters. Adoption records. I sat there frozen like I'd been shot straight through. The first letter was addressed to someone named Margot, a name I'd never heard before in my entire life. But the handwriting. It was Horace's. My husband's. I opened it with shaking hands. Margot. She still doesn't know. I did what we said. The baby's gone. Evelyn thinks it died during delivery. I couldn't watch her break again. Not like before. But I swear to you, I'll find a way to make this right one day. I dropped the letter like it had caught fire. Gone. What baby? What lie? My hands flew through the folder. Inside were hospital documents, signatures, papers from 1963. My name scribbled on the top as mother, but a different name listed under guardian. I didn't understand. I didn't remember. That was the year they told me my baby girl was stillborn. That was the year I woke up in that hospital bed with a nurse whispering, "I'm sorry, sweetheart. She didn't make it." But what if she had? What if they'd lied? My knees buckled, and I sat hard on the attic floor, clutching the folder to my chest like it was my last breath. Everything I believed, about my life, my marriage, my motherhood, was crumbling around me. And the only people who could explain were buried 6 feet under. Or lost to time. Ugh. Unless she was still out there. Somewhere. My daughter. The one I was told had died the night I gave birth. And in that moment something shifted in me. The fragile old woman everyone thought I was. She curled up and went quiet. And something else, something fierce and ancient and angry, took her place. Because if they'd stolen my baby, I was going to find her. And make sure the world heard the truth they tried to bury. If you're hooked and ready to find out what happens next, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to the channel. I didn't sleep that night. My body lay in bed, sure, but my soul was still in that attic, staring at that photo, reading that letter again and again, trying to piece together a puzzle made from broken promises and stolen time. I kept the trunk in my room now. like some haunted box that whispered to me with every creak of the floorboards. I couldn't stop staring at the photo. That baby, bundled in soft pink, had eyes like mine. Wait, a little sad. And the woman holding her. She wasn't Horace's sister. She wasn't some distant cousin. I would have remembered a Margot. I needed answers. So I began reading every letter. One by one. Some were written before 1963. Back when I was still pregnant, still glowing, still stupidly believing Horace when he said we'd finally been blessed after 3 miscarriages. Margot. She's pregnant again. Evelyn's so hopeful. I want to believe we can do this the right way. But if not, you know what we talked about. It's better than watching her fall apart all over again. And then another. I signed the papers today. She won't know. The hospital's taken care of everything. Just keep her safe. I couldn't bear to tell Evelyn. She'd leave me or worse. She'd break in too. Over and over the same theme. Horace protecting me by stealing from me. Acting like I couldn't survive the truth. That my grief was a danger to myself. That his deception was mercy. But that wasn't mercy. That was control. That was betrayal so deep it rattled the bones inside me. I looked around the quiet farmhouse. The kitchen where I made meals for a man who kept a secret life. The chair where he read his newspaper while our daughter, somewhere out there, celebrated birthdays without me. And then I found it. The clue that set everything else in motion. At the bottom of the trunk was a worn address book, tucked between the pages of an old Bible. The cover was cracked, the pages soft with age. But inside, in Horace's handwriting, was a name and address. Margot Whitlow, 231 Starling Lane, Redwood Falls, Minnesota. Minnesota. Hundreds of miles away. I gripped that paper like it was a treasure map. I could feel it, somewhere deep in my gut, that this was still real. That maybe, just maybe, Margot was still alive. Or someone who knew her. Someone who could help me find her. My daughter. My voice trembled when I said it aloud. My baby girl. Not stillborn. Not gone. Just stolen. I couldn't keep this to myself any longer. I needed someone, anyone, to believe me. But who? Who do you call at 87 to say? My whole life was a lie, and I think my daughter's alive. That night I called Clara. Clara Winthrop had been my best friend since we were 12 years old. She lived 2 towns over in a retirement community with more gossip than fresh vegetables. I hadn't seen her in person since before the pandemic, but if there was anyone who would listen without thinking I'd lost my mind, it was her. Evelyn. Her voice crackled through the line. What on earth are you doing calling me at midnight? You forget how clocks work at your age. I didn't even wait. I told her everything. Trunk. The letters. Photo. The address in Minnesota. I poured it all out like a dam had broken. When I finally stopped, there was silence. Then, Evelyn Brewster. I'm coming over tomorrow morning. And you better have coffee ready. 'Cause we're going on a road trip. I burst into tears. Not because I was sad, but because I finally felt seen. Clara arrived the next day with a thermos, a packed bag, and a determined glint in her eyes that I hadn't seen since high school. By noon, we were halfway through Wisconsin. Old women. One cane. One bad hip. A trunk full of secrets. And a photo of a child that never should have been taken from me. You really think she's still alive? Clara asked softly as we passed a faded red barn. I don't know, I whispered. But if she is, have to see her. Even if it's just once. Even if she doesn't want anything to do with me. Clara reached over and squeezed my hand. She will. But as we crossed the state line into Minnesota, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone else already knew we were coming. Because at our next stop, An old motel on the outskirts of Redwood Falls. There was an envelope waiting at the front desk, with my name on it. If that left your heart racing, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. The air in the motel room felt like it had thickened, like even the walls were holding their breath. I sat on the edge of the floral bedspread, staring at the anonymous letter in my lap. Clara paced the room in her fluffy slippers, her arms crossed like she was trying to contain the steam rising from her shoulders. "This has to be some kind of sick joke," she muttered. "Who even knew you'd be here? You didn't tell anyone but me. You didn't call ahead. Evelyn, are you sure you didn't?" "I didn't tell a soul," I said, my voice quieter than I meant. "Just you. And I'm not losing my mind, Clara." She stopped pacing and sat beside me, her expression softening. "I never said you were. But this letter, it means someone's watching." I nodded, heart pounding. Whoever had written it had known my name, known I'd opened the trunk, known I was coming, which meant someone had been keeping tabs on me. Maybe for a long time. And still I didn't stop. Couldn't. The next morning we drove to 231 Starling Lane. It was a white ranch-style home with blue shutters and a porch that looked like it hadn't been swept in years. The yard was overgrown, the mailbox rusted. The only sign of life was a ceramic angel statue in the garden, its wings chipped and face worn smooth. I knocked. No answer. Clara knocked harder. Still nothing. Just when I was about to leave a note in the mailbox, the door creaked open. A woman, late 50s, maybe early 60s, stood in the doorway. She wore thick glasses and a faded cardigan. Her face looked suspicious, but not unkind. "Can I help you?" "I'm looking for Margot Whitlow," I said. The woman studied me for a moment. "She passed away 2 years ago." A silence fell between us. Not because we were strangers, but because I'd come looking for someone already gone. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I didn't know." The woman's expression shifted, less guarded now. "Who are you?" I hesitated. Then, "My name is Evelyn Brewster." I believe she knew my husband, Horace Brewster. Her eyebrows shot up like I'd just mentioned a ghost. She stepped back. "You'd better come in." Clara looked at me. I nodded. We followed the woman inside. The living room was modest. Faded furniture, family photos, shelves of dusty books. She offered us tea. We declined. "My name's Lee," she said. "Margot was my aunt. I was her caretaker toward the end." I told her everything. Not just about the trunk but about my baby. The birth I was told ended in death. Photo. The letters. The growing suspicion that my daughter had been given away without my consent. Lee didn't look shocked. She looked resigned. "She talked about it near the end," Lee said. "The girl. She said it haunted her every night. That she was told it was to save you. That Horace had begged her. Paid her. She didn't want to do it at first. But Horace told her you tried to take your life after one of the miscarriages. That another loss would break you." My throat tightened. "I never." "I know," Lee said quickly. "Margot figured that out too, eventually. But by then, the adoption was sealed. Private. Final. She tried to keep tabs on the girl, but the family moved. She lost the trail. All she had left was a name." I gripped the arms of the chair. "Do you remember it?" Lee stood, crossed to a drawer, and returned with a small envelope. Inside was a folded page, brittle with age. She handed it to me. It was a birth certificate. The name on it, Rosalie Claire Bennett. Date of birth, April 17, 1963. My hands trembled as I read the tiny print. Born in Cedar Hollow, Wisconsin. She would be 60 now, I murmured. Lee leaned forward. There's more. She pulled out another document. An obituary. For a woman named Evelyn Harper. Rosalie's adoptive mother. She had passed last year. Listed in the survivors was one name that made my vision blur. Claire Bennett. My granddaughter. There was an address at the bottom. Clara didn't even wait. She grabbed her keys. Come on, she said. We're not done. It was 2 towns over. A small art studio tucked between a bakery and a florist. The kind of place you'd miss if you blinked. We parked outside and stared at the name painted on the window. Claire Bennett. Fine portraiture and memories in oil. My heart thudded so loud I thought it might echo down the street. Through the glass, I saw a woman in her late 30s, maybe early 40s. Brown hair tied in a bun. Long painter's smock splattered with color. She looked like my youngest sister Ruth before the cancer took her. She looked like Horace. She looked like me. Open the door. He turned, and our eyes met. The air inside the art studio suddenly shifted, thick with something I hadn't felt in years. Recognition wrapped in pain. The woman who stepped out of the back room stood completely still, a palette knife still in her hand mid-motion. Her eyes locked onto mine, and in that moment, the entire world seemed to hush. She was older than Claire. Late 50s, maybe early 60s. Her cheeks flushed with color, some from paint, some from shock. Her mouth opened, closed again. Then opened once more, like she was trying to form a sentence that had been buried for decades. You're Evelyn, she whispered. My heart stopped. You know who I am. Yes. Her voice cracked. I've known for 40 years. Claire looked between us, confused. Wait, Mom. What's going on? The woman stepped forward. Her hands trembled. I'm sorry, she said, eyes never leaving mine. I was supposed to keep the door locked. To keep you out. Clara narrowed her eyes. You knew she might come. The woman nodded. Margot warned me. Said the past might try to find its way back. I swallowed hard. You're Rosalie. She nodded slowly. Yes. I was born Rosalie Claire Brewster. But I've been Rosalie Bennett most of my life. Evelyn Harper, my adoptive mother, raised me as her own. She never spoke of you. But Margot did. Once. After Evelyn died. That's when I found out. When I started to piece together everything. Claire stepped back, stunned. Wait, you're saying, Grandma? Her voice cracked on the word. She turned to me, tears building. Rosalie rushed to her. No, honey, it's not what you think. She's my real grandmother. Claire asked. Rosalie looked like she wanted to deny it, to soften it. But truth doesn't come with a cushion. Yes, she said quietly. She is. Claire looked at me again. Then why didn't I know? Why didn't you know? I thought you died the night you were born, I said softly. They told me you didn't make it. That you were too small. That I wasn't strong enough to carry you. Claire's hands flew to her mouth. Rosalie sat down on a wooden bench, like the weight of the truth had finally crushed her legs. I didn't know until I was already a mother myself, she said. And by then, I was so angry. Margot. At Evelyn. Horace. At you. She looked up at me, eyes glassy. I thought, how could a mother give away her baby? How could you not fight for me? I stepped closer. Because I was tricked. Later. Horace convinced them I was too weak to handle another loss. That it would destroy me. I never had the chance to hold you. Name you. To tell you how much I wanted you. She stood inching closer. And then I learned the truth. That you'd been grieving me. While I was grieving a mother I never knew. The silence stretched between us. Claire stood in the middle of it all, between generations, between pain and possibility. Then she said something that cracked the room wide open. Maybe you were both grieving the same lie. Rosalie choked back a sob. I kept everything after I found out, she said. Margot's letters. Photo. Kept it in the trunk. But I never had the courage to find you. He nodded. I understand. I didn't come for revenge, Rosalie. I came to know you. Claire wiped her eyes. And what now? What do we do with all this? Rosalie looked at her daughter, then back at me. We start again, she said. That night we sat in Claire's small kitchen, drinking tea from mismatched mugs. She asked questions about her grandfather, her aunts and uncles, the farm, the blue blanket I had ready the day she was supposed to come home with me. Rosalie listened too, silently, tears slipping now and then. Then she brought out a small wooden box. Inside were the letters I had written Horace while I was pregnant. And another, torn, crinkled, and clearly unread. A letter with my name in the return address. But never mailed. Rosalie handed it to me. I found it after Evelyn passed. It was written by Horace. To you. Opened it. Inside, in that familiar blocky handwriting, was a confession. He admitted to arranging the adoption without my knowledge. Said he thought he was protecting me. That he feared another miscarriage would break me. That he believed Margot could quietly fix everything. He said he regretted it the moment I looked into his eyes and asked to see our baby. But by then the papers were signed. I dropped the letter. My chest ached with every beat. I should hate him, I said quietly. But I don't. I just feel empty. Rosalie nodded. Me too. Claire placed her hand on mine. You're not empty. You're full of stories. And I want to hear all of them. If you felt the pull of buried family truths and second chances in this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We arrived at the law office 2 days later. It was tucked into a faded red brick building just outside town, next to a bakery that smelled like cinnamon and regret. Claire held my hand as we stepped into the lobby, her other arm around Rosalie. It was the first time in my life I'd stood between 2 generations of my own blood and felt the connection was real. The receptionist looked up. You must be Mrs. Brewster and family. Mr. Dalton is expecting you. Mr. Dalton was thin, gray-haired, and had the kind of voice that sounded like it had read too many secrets. He motioned us into his office, where a manila folder sat ominously on his desk. Thank you for coming. I've been holding on to this file for quite some time, waiting for the right person to surface. Until recently, I wasn't even sure you existed. He looked at Rosalie. Your father, Horace Brewster, set up a private trust in 1982. It was sealed with a clause, never to be disclosed unless someone matching your birth details contacted this office. Rosalie's breath caught. Claire leaned in. What kind of trust? Mr. Dalton opened the folder, sliding the papers in front of us. Inside was a handwritten letter and a legal document that made my vision blur. It wasn't just a trust. It was a confession, and a gift. Horace had written, if Rosalie ever finds this, it means she found the truth. I can't undo what I did. I can't give Evelyn back the years we lost, or Rosalie the mother she never got to know. But I can leave behind the one thing I still have left to offer, proof that she was always loved, even if it came wrapped in cowardice and shame. The trust held over $600,000, property deeds, and a storage unit registered in both my name and Rosalie's. Claire's hand flew to her chest. Rosalie sat frozen. I broke. I wept. Not for the money, not even for the years stolen, But for the moment my husband finally said what I had waited 40 years to hear. That my pain mattered. That she mattered. That we mattered. We visited the storage unit the next morning. The key was taped behind the trust paperwork, brittle and cold in my palm. Inside it was like stepping into a ghost's memory. There were photographs, boxes of them. Baby photos of Rosalie I never saw. School drawings. Birthday cards that Horace had kept but never shared. And there, tucked behind a dusty rocking chair, was the blue blanket I had sewn the week before she was born. I clutched it to my chest, the weight of it heavier than grief. "I knew this blanket," Rosalie whispered. "It used to be in my toy chest. Evelyn said it was from the hospital." I smiled through my tears. "No, darling. It was from me. I stitched every corner by hand. For you." Claire took a picture of us holding the blanket together. She posted it to social media later that day with a caption that made the whole town cry. "Family is sometimes broken and stitched back together. But that's what makes it stronger. Meet my grandmother Evelyn, the bravest woman I know. And my mother Rosalie, the daughter she never stopped loving." The fallout came fast. Margot's name came up again, on paperwork, letters, and in Dalton's files. Turns out she hadn't just orchestrated the adoption. She'd forged one of the medical reports that deemed me unfit to parent again. And she'd received a generous donation to her clinic. From Evelyn Harper's husband. Rosalie pressed charges. It wasn't about revenge. It was about closure. It was about rewriting the story that had been told for us. Now, at 86 years old, I sit on the porch of Rosalie's home in the Carolinas. Claire visits every Sunday, always bringing me my favorite ginger cookies and the latest updates on her work at the art gallery. She's become the bridge between us, between what was stolen and what was found. Rosalie teaches art at the local community college. She's gentle with her students, patient in a way that makes me believe some wounds really can be healed. We have dinner every Friday. Sometimes we laugh so hard the neighbors knock on the door to check on us. Other times we cry quietly over tea, holding hands and remembering the missing years. But we always end the night the same way, with 3 glasses raised high. One for the mother who never gave up. One for the daughter who never knew she was lost. And one for the truth that finally came home. I stand at Claire's art exhibit, surrounded by paintings inspired by stories I once kept hidden in my bones. In the center of the gallery hangs a large canvas, soft shades of blue, delicate threads painted along the edges. She titled it "The Blanket That Found Us." A woman walks by and says, "That painting feels like forgiveness." Smile. It is. If this story moved you, please hit that like button, share it with someone who still believes in second chances, and subscribe for more unforgettable stories. What would you do if you discovered a truth hidden for 60 years? Let us know in the comments. We read every single one. Until next time, thank you for listening.